right, let's get into some of the big stories this morning. You know, we have talked a lot about the big stories the media is covering this morning is the House yesterday then failing to impeach Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas. That was surprising to me. But it turns out that Steve Scalise was absent. He is, as you know, has been undergoing cancer treatments. And so Scalise was absent. He'll be back. But three Republicans, Representatives Ken Buck of Colorado, Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin, and Tom McClintock of California, joined Democrats in voting against the impeachment of Mayorkas. And then when it looked like it was going to end in a tie, a fourth Republican then flipped to no. And then that's going to allow leadership to call for another vote on this issue. So you get Scalise back, and you try again as to whether Alejandro Mayorkas should be impeached. So that was a bit of a stunner, I thought, as I saw that. And then also the House of Representatives, part of the that bill the Senate is working on, it's aid to Ukraine, it's aid to Israel, it's a little bit of just a smattering of dollars then to the border. And we've talked about the border at length. We'll talk about that more in a moment here. So the House of Representatives had come up, we're just going to give aid to Israel. So they had a bill that would provide about $17.6 billion in aid just to Israel, rather than that mess over in the Senate. And this Israel-only bill then failed. And it was, Newsmax says, it was introduced under an expedited procedure that requires a 2/3 majority for passage, and they didn't have it. So the vote was 250 to 180, but it fell short because it didn't get the 2/3 majority needed. And so where that stands from here at this point, I'm not certain. So those are big stories this morning. Also, as we talk about the border and that mess of a Senate bill on the border, Senator Rand Paul, there are a growing number of Republicans now who are pushing back against leadership on this issue. And Senator Rand Paul among them. He went after Republican leadership, and he was on, it was Fox News. And he said of this deal, because I told you yesterday that it was rocky, and whether there'd be a Wednesday vote, we didn't know, and it's. So Senator Rand Paul said of this bill is flawed from top to bottom. No conservatives in the Senate will vote for this. No conservatives in the House are going to vote for it. The House Speaker says it's dead on arrival. He said it really shows incredibly bad strategy on Senate Republican leadership to bring this up at all. And Senator Paul went on, he said the Republicans who vote for this are going to be pilloried by Republicans at home. See, I think Senator Rand Paul is connected to Main Street a lot more than Mitch McConnell is, and those who run in the McConnell camp. They are not connected to their constituents at home. And so Senator Paul said, there's really no good logic in doing it this way. He said, I think it was basically Senator McConnell, Senator Schumer, President Biden. They want to send more of our money to Ukraine. This was always sort of a sideshow for them in order to get what they really want, which is sending more of our money overseas. And he said what you and I have been saying for a long time. He says current law, was talking about the border now. Current law is sufficient. Biden has the authority to shut down illegal crossings. And he said when President Trump was president, his administration was able to control the border without any changes in the law. And he said, you know, Republicans have to realize when they vote as a minority to drag us into this, the majority of the caucus doesn't want us, doesn't want it. He said it really adds to discord and strife. It really makes many of us wonder about our leadership just dragging us into Democrat deals that are all the Democrats and a handful of Republicans. Just doesn't seem like a very unifying way to run our caucus. Well, no kidding. Not meant to be critical of Senator Paul at all. I like him. I really do. More times than not, I'm in agreement with Senator Rand Paul. More times than not. And talking about the issue of Ukraine, he said he opposes additional aid for Ukraine, criticized the ongoing talks on the border with very little oversight then on the foreign funds, you know, that would, and he just said, talking about the border, he said, I think overall, the overall deal is in all likelihood dead. Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that, based on the comments of House Speaker Johnson the other day that I shared with you in regard to that. Also, Senator Ted Cruz is among those who said, and forgive me, I got a wealth of stories here. I don't think I have the one with Senator Cruz. In response to that story, he was asked about Mitch McConnell. Is it time to replace Mitch McConnell? And he said, I think it is. I think it is. And then he went on a little bit more. And I agree. I think Senator McConnell is, on a number of issues, he's an obstacle. He's no less an obstacle than Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress. He is just as much an obstacle as them. And then that becomes an issue because we got Senator John Thune, who's very closely, involved then with Senator McConnell, one of his, he's a part of the Senate Republican leadership, very close then. And I just think getting behind Senator McConnell, our Republican senators have done that. I think it's just a gross mistake. And a lot of other senators are saying the same. Senator Ron Johnson was on Newsmax yesterday talking about this. I think he and Senator Rick Scott. And Senator Johnson said, was Leader McConnell who set up these secret negotiations on a subject that the vast majority of Americans agree with us on. He said, and then he was talking about Senator Jim Lankford of Oklahoma, because Senator Lankford is saying, oh, wait, you got to see the deal, and this is a sweet deal, and just wait until the details come out. And I kind of appreciate what Senator Johnson says here, because Senator Lankford was in an impossible position. He's working with Senate Democrats. He's working then with the Democrat president, and his hands were tied in terms of what he could do. Then he's got Mitch McConnell, who I don't know is any better than Senate Democrats at this point. I can't tell the difference. Can you? I mean, I sure can't. You can't tell the difference. And so Senator Johnson said of Lankford, he said the problem is that Senator Lankford was negotiating with Democrats who want an open border. I mean, and the only reason they're negotiating is they're looking for political cover. It made an almost insurmountable task for him, which I think is very insightful. I would agree. Senator Johnson gets a lot of heat. He is ridiculed a lot by the left. And, you listen to him, and there's a lot of, there's a lot of great thoughts there as he's responding to these things. So Senator Johnson is a fairly regular on Newsmax. It's where a lot of these Republican lawmakers go to actually get their word out and their point of view, because the legacy media certainly is not helping them. Now, as we talk about the border bill, Joe Biden said in a White House speech that Donald Trump is to blame. Donald Trump is to blame. He says that Trump would rather weaponize the issue than solve it. And I thought, are you kidding me? That is laughable. That is absolutely laughable. Anybody who's really honestly following these issues with it, that Trump would weaponize it. And what happens is, now that's a blatant lie. But when it comes to Donald Trump, so many people have lost their objectivity. That's what, they believe that. They hear that. They focus on that. They've completely lost their objectivity. They've lost the ability to see for themselves. And so he's saying Trump would rather weaponize the issue, and there's a lot being made that, we had this deal until Donald Trump started making the phone calls. Donald Trump hopped on the phone and he started letting Republicans know, you better not vote for this. And some of these Republicans started listening. And that's because, in the words of the president, Donald Trump was weaponizing the issue. Now, what Donald Trump has said, and he's let these senators know, hey, you people who think the American people are stupid and are not watching, hey, we're watching. And we know who you are. That's all Trump said. So Trump is out there, Trump would rather use it as a campaign issue, and you want to weaponize this. That's just belly aching. Childish belly aching from Joe Biden. And again, especially as we talk about, the border bill. Senator Paul said it. So many of us have said it. You don't need a border bill to secure the border. Donald Trump did it with no bill. Senator Paul pointed that out. Donald Trump did this without a bill. It was able to secure the border. So, it's Donald Trump and he wants to weaponize that. Those of you who are saying that are ignorant beyond belief. That is not supported by fact. It's just not. And I don't care how many times you repeat it and say it, doesn't make it. I mean, that has become the new mantra of Democrats. You just keep repeating it over and over as if it's true. And of course, it doesn't make what's happening doesn't make these things any more true. We don't see that happening. But they just keep repeating it ad nauseum, the very same thing. And some, I think it's ignorance. Some, it's just hatred of Donald Trump. And some of them are otherwise intelligent people. Some of the callers that we get on the show, and then, they're intelligent people. I listen to them, and I go, well, that's a great thought. And then they swerve into all of that, and then they start sounding like parrots. They start sounding like ventriloquist dummies. Like somebody's got their hand jammed up their rear end and are working them like ventriloquist dummies. And that's how they sound. It's just crazy. Well, I found these Senator Cruz comments as we were talking about. Senator Cruz was asked yesterday, is it time for Mitch McConnell to step down? And is it time for him to go? And Senator Cruz said, I think it is. I think a Republican leader should actually lead this conference and should advance the priorities of Republicans. Yeah. Don't you think? I mean, to you and me, that's just a no-brainer. So many of these things, it's like, duh. Do we actually need to have somebody who is saying this? You're the Republican leader. Should you advance the priorities of Republicans? Yeah. I mean, it's just frustrating. Senator Mike Lee made some comments on X that are worth sharing with you. He's another Republican who's really distraught with the Republican leadership. And so Senator Mike Lee represents Utah. And he said, Senate Republican leadership screwed this up and screwed us, even while refusing to let us see the bill that they claim to be negotiating on our behalf for months. They were never in doubt, insisting we'd be dumb and even unpatriotic not to support it. This is a disqualifying betrayal, he said. Wow. I mean, those are strong words by Senator Mike Lee. And then he said, the whole thing, he said, it feels like an elaborate practical joke, but it's not funny, not one bit. He said, I cannot understand how any Republican would think this was a good idea or anything other than an unmitigated disaster. And then he says in all capital letters, we need new leadership now, he said. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. We're overdue. We are overdue for a change in Republican leadership in the U.S. Senate. Way overdue. So then McConnell was asked about this. Senator McConnell was asked about the comments from Senator Ted Cruz, and Cruz asking him to step down. And McConnell said, well, I think we can all agree that Senator Cruz is not a fan. Senator McConnell, you sound like a moron. You sound like a moron. Senator Cruz, I mean, honestly. Oh, he's not a fan, therefore what? We can disregard everything Senator Cruz has to say, disregard everything Senator Lee has to say. I've got to say that Senator McConnell and his team are incredibly good at ignoring what Main Street Republicans are saying, as well as the fellow members of the U.S. Senate who happen to be Republicans. It's just shocking and shameful.